This is a research paper. These are just a series of thoughts about how I became involved with Call IS and the ED, or how I got hooked on technology. I am true fanatic. Now, hey, overlapping what Vance was talking about, you may be old enough to recognize this as a version of BASIC. At the 1983 Toronto TESOL, that very first inception moment, I sat in the audience of that symposium that David Sanders and Roger Kenner gave. And it was moved to a very large auditorium because everybody was clamoring to get in. And Roger Kenner typed these lines into a PC. And when he clicked run, and the whole audience went, easy. Or how I got hooked on technology. I am true fanatic. Now, hey, overlapping what Vance was talking about, you may be old enough to recognize this as a version of BASIC. At the 1983 Toronto TESOL, that very first inception moment, I sat in the audience of that symposium that David Sanders and Roger Kenner gave. And it was moved to a very large auditorium because everybody was clamoring to get in. And Roger Kenner typed these lines into a PC. And when he clicked run, and the whole audience went, took my breath away. It suddenly dawned on me at that very moment that you could tell these machines what to do and make them interact with students. So, as Vance said, this is kind of the first year that Call got going and eventually became an organization within TESOL. So I want to thank Roger Kenner for getting me hooked. It's a great moment. And then very quickly, still way back in the Call IS developed created the Developers Fair. It was a really neat thing. It wasn't just showing software, but it was people who were in the process of developing software. So it was always packed with tech heads and junkies like me. I went to one presentation in the ED by someone who, and I don't know who this person's name is, and if anybody recognizes what I'm going to talk about and knows who that person is, I would love to find out. But he showed a video of a student working with a program on a fairly complex, higher-level computer, not a little PC. And he had explored an island. There was kind of a map and a schematic. And then the student was listening to a reading of a short passage describing this island. And he could replay any word, phrase, or sentence in the text and listen to it. And the video was amazing because the student practiced words and phrases over and over and over. And I counted him. He did one sentence 23 times. And I thought, you could not force a student to do this at gunpoint, right? But here he was sitting there, user control, doing the practice he really wanted. So, again, that really made me think that technology is very important because of user control of that technology. If anybody knows the name of that presenter, I would love to find out. Now, in my notes, I have 1984, and that was the article Armando Baltra wrote about Mystery House. I don't know if you recognize this ASCII simple drawing, but the article is an EFL classroom in a mystery house. It's a single-player, multi-branching adventure game. And the point is not so much the dead bodies that are piling up in the mystery, but in the fact that students would gather around a computer and talk about what they were going to do in the adventure game. They would draw maps together, they would make decisions together, and this was where language was really happening. And studies like Chris Jones's were showing that most languages learn around the computer with students interacting, not back and forth with the computer in drill and drill. And by the way, you can still play Mystery House online if you want, in simple versions. So, thanks to Armando Baltra, Chris Jones, and others who showed me that student interaction was far more important than drill and drill. Another milestone in what I think of as Call and ED also was HyperCard. Now over 25 years old, HyperCard influenced the development of the web in the 1990s. The idea that hypertext could connect information and brain-like associations in a web and could incorporate media, color, photos, audio, video, text-to-speech. And the programming language was so simple. It was things like play sound. You didn't have to go out and learn a lot of stuff to do that. Apple bundled the HyperCard with every computer they sold from 1987 to 2000. And one enthusiast wrote, it's an application that makes Mac OS insanely great. Claire Braden, Jeff Magato, John McVicker, people like that, thank you, Claire, showed us that you could put buttons on cards and the student could play or listen to something or do other kinds of things with it. And I think we're still trying to find some comparable, user-friendly, teacher-friendly program where teachers could make their own programs that were relevant locally. Instead, we've all kind of moved into this swamp soup of HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and so on. And you can still run HyperCard on the Mac OS emulator. And Hot Potatoes may be the closest thing. It's not that easy to use. I've written Hot Potatoes programs, and it's not easy. There is a community of users, but Hot Potatoes isn't supported anymore either. But anyway, thanks to Claire Brady, Jeff Magato, John Vicker, and other people in the ED who got me hooked on HyperCard. My next great revelation came from Tim Johns, who with Mike Scott wrote Micro Concord. Tim's whole shtick was data-driven learning. He drove us home with a great ED presentation of an ESP class where he mentioned a comparison of transcripts between the language of medical school lectures and the spoken language of doctors who were his students in the EFL class. And he brought up this example. His EFL student said, "What is this word pop?" He's familiar with British English. "Pop into my office. Pop up on the table here. Just pop out of your clothes." So Tim Johns made clear to me the significance of concordancers and concordancing, and I've been trying to convince teachers ever since that concordancers are a very important call tool. The Micro Concord Corpus Collection is still available online for free. You can also use an online concordancer like Tom Cobb's LexTutor, or the venerable Grammar Safari is still around, or you can do a Grammar Safari using a search engine in your browser. So thanks to Tim, data-driven Johns, and rest in peace. He died in 2003. And then one further development, the Electronic Village Online. In Cole, I think the spread of online learning is what's most notable in this generation. Flipped classes, partially flipped classes, MOOCs. The original MOOC, I think, was the Electronic Village Online, and thanks to Tom Robb and Christine Bauer-Ramazani and Susan Gare, you're out there, they observed this rise of the internet and realized the potential for professional development. I offered a session of the Electronic Village in the second year, 2002, when Vance Stevens started the webhead. Well, it didn't start the webhead, but it was offered as a session, and I joined it, and I've been a webhead since, totally addicted to webhead. So thanks to Tom Robb, and Christine Bauer-Ramazani especially, for working with the EDO, I became a coordinator of that for some 10, 12 years, doing that. I think it was originally thought of as a kind of a modest extension of the convention. We would have pre-convention discussions of interesting topics, and just, exploded. There are 8,500 participants this year, so it's really quite important. Thanks also to Vance for the webheads, because I think that's extremely significant development in this century and truly effective. These are some of the projects I've worked with over the decades, I'm sorry to say. And these are projects that I feel are largely because of the people I met in CallIS and worked with in CallIS, and especially Deborah Healy, who was former chair of CallIS, current board member, outgoing, my editor and one of the and my writer and others, and a colleague on many projects, and my model for an exceptionally outstanding and hardworking volunteer, someone for educators to look up to. So, Deborah, thanks for the example you set, and you're a hard act to follow. Okay, that's all. Thank you.